Islam in Australia is a minority religious affiliation. According to the Australian census, the combined number of people who self-identified as Muslim in Australia from all forms of Islam constitute 500,000 of people or 2.6% of the total Australian population, an increase of over 15% of its previous population share of 2.2% reported in the previous census 5 years earlier. Some estimate more than half are non-practicing cultural Muslims stemming from all the varying denomination and sect of Islam present in Australia. The total Muslim population makes Islam in all its denomination and sect the second largest religious grouping in Australia. Demographers attribute Muslim community growth trends during the most recent census period to relatively high birth rates and recent immigration patterns. Followers of Islam represent the majority of the population in Cocos Island, an external territory of Australia. The vast majority of Muslims in Australia belong to the two major denominations of Islam, the Sunni and Shia denomination, while the overall Australian Muslim community is defined largely by a common religious identity with Islam. Australians Muslims are not a monolithic community. The Australian Muslim community is fragmented into not only the traditional sectarian division of what is sect defined as Islam, but it is also extremely diverse racially, ethnically, culturally. The different Muslim groups with the Australian Muslim community thus also espouse parallel non-religious ethnic identities with related non-Muslim counterpart, either within Australia or abroad. Indonesian Muslim tripreneurs from the southeast corner of Sulawesi visited the coast of northern Australia from the least the 18th century to collect and process tripang, a marine invertebrate prized for its culinary and medical values in Chinese markets. Remnants of their influence can be seen in the culture of some of the northern Aboriginal peoples. Among the early Muslims were Afghan camel drivers, who migrated to and settled in Australia during the mid-late 19th century. Between 1860 and the 1890, a number of Central Asians came to Australia to work as camel drivers for exploring the arid interior and later for the camel trains that were uniquely suited to the demands of Australian vast desert. The first mosque in Australia was built in 1861 at Mary. The Great Mosque of Adelaide was built in 1888 by the descent of the Afghan camellers. Most of the camellers returned to their countries after their hard work, but a few had brought wives and settled in Australia with their families, and others settled either on their own or married Aboriginal or European women. The perceived need for population growth and economic development in Australia led to the broadening of Australia's immigration policy in the post-World War II period. This allowed for their acceptance of the number of displaced white European Muslims who began to arrive from the other parts of Europe, mainly from Balkans, especially from Bosnia and Herzegovina, as with the Albanian Muslim immigrants before them. Trade and educational links have been developed between Australia and several Muslim countries. Muslim students from countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Bangladesh and Pakistan are among the thousands of international students staying in Australian universities. By the beginning of 31st century, Muslims from more than 60 countries had settled in Australia, while a very large number of them come from Bosnia, Turkey, and Lebanon. There are Muslims from Indonesia, Malaysia, Iran, Fiji, Albania, Sudan, Somalia, Egypt, and Palestinian territories. Also from Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, among others. Most Australian Muslims are Sunni with Shia, then Sufi and Ahmadiyya as minorities. After the white Australian immigration law were replaced with multicultural policies, the social disadvantage of Muslim was thought to have been alleviated. Note that Muslims now face some disadvantages on account of their religion. Now the Muslim community also received support from the Australian public through a social media campaign. If you love this video, please comment here or like this video and share this video with your friends. For next updates, please subscribe our channel and click on the bell icon.